let's go talk about the patch. Okay, so the patch, okay, they have a little forward, of course. Welcome to our patch 411. It's supposed to bring back new junglers, because there are really only 3 competitive junglers right now, through the introduction of the new Spirit Golem, whatever, yada yada yada, League of Champions, yada yada yada. And pretty much what they say here in this paragraph is that, look, they can't make big changes with Worlds coming up. And I understand that, you know, that makes sense. You don't want to make big sweeping changes like removing Dragon. Like, that would be, like, stupid. Okay, but I understand. Okay, so they're trying to, they're just trying to make small changes, but they're trying to increase the jungle stuff, whatever. And this is a general thing. So the biggest thing, and something that I've advocated for so long, is that the kills in this game currently don't matter. Like, kills do not matter at all. Unless you get a kill and they get something out of it, the overall effect of you getting kills isn't very big. The main reasoning behind that is that when you get a kill, your kill spree increases, and then they immediately get less gold. They're worth less gold on the next death. And so I think the general idea right now is if you kill them 4 times, if you 4-0 them by 10 minutes, then if you kill them at 2 minutes, and then every 2 minutes after, you make a net gain of like X amount of gold. And then if you die and then give that gold to the jungler, or the jungle ganks you, and then the jungle gets a kill, so he gets a 500 gold spree, and the assist is worth 250. The net gold that you've gained through going 4-0 in your lane is something like 250 gold. Like, it's nothing. And that's why, honestly, it's just not worth it to get kills. Like, getting kills is nice, like you can get snowballed, but getting kills is like a way for you to get more objectives, or a way for you to control the game, a way for you to deny meaningful like farm from the opponent. Like, that's the reason why you kill people. You don't kill people to get kills, and I think that's bad. I think one of the main focuses of this game, both as to be a better spectator sport and to be more enjoyable, is that people enjoy killing stuff. I enjoy killing stuff. That came out wrong. I enjoy killing champions in League of Legends, but it's just like much better that it's like that, because I just feel like it's a much more enjoyable state of the game. Like, that's the kind of meta, or the kind of overall, it's not even meta, it's the overall nature that I enjoy in general. And so with that, that's like the foreboding to this, is that, look, they wanted to reduce anti-snowballing, because you wanted to make it so, like, Riot acknowledged that, okay, so they were just like, okay, so this is a problem that kills aren't worth anything, so we're gonna try to decrease kill gold, or sorry, increase kill, what is this? Yeah, decrease the amount of gold you give up for being ahead. Like, if you get a spree, you're not worth 500 gold after 5 kills, which is actually pretty big. Like, it means you cut like 100 gold off, so that's a start, you know, that's a good way to do it. I think that's great. The bounty reward system, amazing. Like, that's the small step you want Riot to do to make the game better, and to be less oriented about objectives and more oriented about kills and how kills are good for you. And some people might be like, well, what if, might respond, you know what, Scarra, I really like objective-based gameplay. Like, I feel like teamwork should be rewarded, and teamwork really shows off objectives, and to some extent I agree with you. Certainly I'm not going to argue with that. I too like teamwork and teamwork oriented stuff. The problem is when the trade-off is too much. Like, for instance, and this is just something that I've noticed throughout this season specifically. Remember last season, we had a lot of different regions, and the most polarizing region, one of the most polarizing big region was China. China, millions of gamers, they create their own meta. Their meta was very tower diving, very bloodthirsty. Like, it was like a battle royale. When you watch Chinese games, you knew you were going into a bloodbath, and it was really enjoyable to watch. And then you had like a kind of a more calculated gameplay from OGN, kind of a different style from NA teams. Like, each individual NA team had like a different style. It was C9 style pretty much, and then they just tried to emulate it. And then you had European teams which played a little bit more, less aggressive, but more like it was like something more objective based, but not as good as Korea. Is what it came down to. But let's just say there was a lot of different ways to play the game. You either were like really kill heavy, or you were like objective focused. You wanted to dive, you wanted to farm. It's just all these kind of ways you could play the game. And I truly believe that at that time you could play the game however you liked it if you were good enough. If you're a good enough team and you wanted to just, if you had the best team fighting in the game and you just went, and you were so good at laning that you could lane for 50 minutes and team fight, great. NIP did that. That was the Lemon Dog strategy, man. Lane until you could just kill everyone because they were so good at laning. Like, that was just, that was it. But I feel like with the introduction of how they changed, they added anti-snowballing in the jungle, like increasing creep camp XP so that you can't really counter jungle someone, you can't put them significantly far behind, and then adding like assist sprees, and then like the kill gold and stuff like that really decreased the cost of kills to the point where I feel like they are less and less relevant. And it's not just I believe, I know factually they're less and less relative than objectives. And throughout this season we've seen the worth of Dragon and the cost of Dragon go up and up. And the biggest thing that you can see from these changes, and why I brought up China as a big example, is that when you see the Chinese team now, it is very different than what it was last season. You no longer see like these crazy dives. Like, you see the best teams in China adapted to this style. In fact, every region kind of adapted to play a very similar sort of style. And everyone has their quirks, you know. Some people still dive. Certainly, I think they still dive, but they dive with like the idea of getting the objective after. And to some extent, I think that's because everyone's gotten better at the game compared to last season, every season before it. But to some extent, I just think that since kills are no longer the focus, like, you can't run a very, like, you can't emulate what happened in China last year. Like, there can't be a meta created around killing people, but it's just not the best way to do it anymore. And I feel like that's very depressing. Like, that's sad in some situations, because that was like, it's nice to have like an international feel where you see all these metas. I feel like all the metas eventually formed into this melting pot because of how the game is right now. It kind of enforced a very specific style of play, and I definitely do not like that. And I think this bounty reward system is great. It's a step in the right direction. I truly believe this was a great idea. Now, these two are it's the opposite of what you wanted. And so right now the turrets now increase they do more damage on consecutive hits, and they target faster, as well as XP having like a longer XP range. Like 1400 range is insane. The mid lane is only like 4000 range long. Like, you cannot, this effectively means you can't zone mid lane anymore, or the area that you have to zone means that you will be always susceptible to jungle ganks. I feel like this promotes anti-snowballing, and promotes more aggression, more bloodthirsty, like, you like enjoy kills, and these two completely counteract what this tried to do. So this means you want to dive turrets less. Like, you can't deny and force your lead. Like, freezing is harder to do. It's harder to deny your opponents when you're ahead, and so I feel like if it just feels weird. Like, I do not think either of these changes were necessary. And in fact, I think these changes completely kind of counteract this change to a large degree. And I don't know what the point of this patch was, because if the point of this patch was to encourage anti-snowballing, but also make it so you can snowball better from after, to make it so you can't get dove, so you can recover from getting dove, I think that's weird. Because right now, let's say if you're gonna test something, if you're gonna create an experiment, you wouldn't want to create too many variables, because it's hard to measure the effectiveness of each individual variable. And I feel like them having this is one very big variable that they need to test. And then these two as well are two other variables that are very game impacting. And if you add all three together at the same time, how are they going to get the data to know which of these three are the most, like, how effective each of these three are individually? I feel like this patch is just going all over the place, and these two things especially I do not enjoy at all. In fact, I really dislike them to a high extent, because it's like, yeah, it's like before I don't know. Kills weren't worth anything, but now it's like kills are worth a little bit more, but they're counteracted by the fact that that you have to play like diving is extremely like much harder now. Like this is probably more than a 10% buff in terms of tower diving, just because of the turret selects targets faster. That's a huge change. I don't know how much faster, but if it's significant, that is like a huge change. And the worst thing is we don't get a number for this, so we just have to get a feel for how fast they select targets, and that's like, wow, like that's a shitty thing to play on as a competitive player. Like as a coach, how do I tell my players to like juggle aggro if they don't know how fast it like moves, or like, I don't know. I just, the end all be all is I just do not like these two changes at all. And maybe other people do, but that's my opinion. Okay, Braum, great early champion. I think the nerfs are fine, and they're valid. He was an extremely strong early game, and his passive is the main reason why. Nothing I really want to talk about there. Nothing to talk about Heimer. This is useless. This is funny, because Jax has the 3rd highest base health in the game, I think. And they just wanted to tone it down, so he's not as tanky and still does insane damage. I think it's fine. Whatever, Karthus didn't even get changed. So Kayle gets less attacks for level, and EE skills less. I really think the only thing they needed to do was that. Like, they just need to nerf intervention cooldown, because that was just extremely long. And they nerfed it by quite a bit. I definitely think this was a sizable nerf, and you'll see less Kayle play because of it. It just pushes Kayle away from being the most priority pick top lane to something like a more balanced pick around Lulu, like very close to Lulu, or even a little bit less than Lulu's current strength right now. They might have overdone it with the numbers, but you know, that's something that we'll have to play around with. Lucian, they know he's strong. I think he's okay. I don't think this even needs to be said. Like, I just think he's in a decent spot right now. Maybe, like, if anything, marginally too strong. Maokai changes are something I'm just gonna have to see. The mana reduction on all the abilities was really good. The W is the weirdest thing, is that it now does percentage maximum health, but they lowered the range. I think the range lowering was a huge deal. I'm not quite sure why they did that, but they made it still with CDR. It'll just be a unique champion, because E also slows on impact as well. I don't know what to think about this champion. I just have to see it in action. I'm not really good at being able to see numbers alone and being like, okay, this is gonna be a good champion. Unless it's just really obvious. Nihilus is passive now, it scales. It's whatever. It's like a small buff, but that's it. Nidalee. I think she's really good right now. I think the problem with Nidalee is actually that I don't think there's a problem with Nidalee. I think that they pushed this change out way too fast. They buffed her base stats for no reason, and they buffed like all of her abilities. I don't understand. I really don't. I think she's in a good spot right now, and buffing her right now is like, it's very questionable, because I really think she may be good right now, and this buff may push her to like really broken territories. I just don't see the point of the buff, especially because I feel like there hasn't been enough time for them to see how good or bad she is. No change. Scarra, they lowered his consistent DPS on Q. Kind of understand it, but I think this might have been a little bit rushed. But at least that's like a reasonable nerf. So it's not going to break the champion. It's just going to make him a little bit weaker. I can't say that that's too bad. So that's okay. Like, this is a nerf that I'm okay with. You can now cast Summoner spells while in pool. That's actually really nice. It's like a small buff though. It won't make him any more viable, but it'll just make him more interesting when you play him. Yasuo, his E now caps at 2 stacks. Not a big deal. That's it. You just won't be maxing. You won't see people max E all the way anymore. People typically only did 3 points anyways, but this is, yeah, it just does 2. Nihilus, or not Nihilus, sorry, Zac. Minor buffs on W. He got flat CDR scaling, which is really strong. Yeah, I just think it's actually really good. Small buff, but may bring him to become more viable, especially with the new Ancient Golem change. Ziggs got a minor nerf, won't do anything. He'd still be extremely strong. These 3 got their hitboxes increased, whatever. This is strange. I don't know why they increased the cost of Hunter's Machete, because it makes it a really awkward gold value back to where you can't buy Machete in 5 pots. You can only buy Machete in 4 pots. I don't know why they did that. In fact, I think that's kind of bad because a lot of tank junglers get kind of low. I don't know, some junglers get kind of low. I just feels like this pushes back a little bit the viability of certain junglers. Like, a leash is more necessary with this change. Quill Coat. Now this is the thing. What everyone's talking about. I think it gives 20 armor, which is only really 2 armor plus. I think it'll be good. I think the new Spirit Golem will be good, but honestly, I just need to see it in game. They added armor and bonus health, which is actually insane. Percentage bonus health scaling on Spirit Golem, and they added sapping barbs, which is pretty unique. I just need to see this in action. I can't look at the numbers and see how good it'll be. What only worries me is this machete price. Like, I have no idea why it's like this. I honestly have no idea. Essence Reaver, great buff. No, this is the buff I was looking for, because Essence Reaver as an item alone is really bad. Like, even when you're buying it for specific builds, it's still, I feel, very bad. But with this, it puts it much more in line. Like, 1080 is nothing to scoff at. You can only do it with teammates 1 full tier above or below, whatever. Like, this doesn't impact me at all. Public chat rooms, whatever, disabled. I don't even care. I don't care. Yeah. Okay. So that was the patch preview. Let me go ahead and look to what subscribers I had during that. But generally, I think I liked like 50% of the patch or less. Like, I probably only liked. I said I liked 60% of the patch, but now that I think about it, that turn nerf and the range on XP is enormous for competitive play, and I feel like that is very, very bad. And I honestly do not like this patch that much. I can safely say that this is probably one of my least favorite patches going into this season. Just the scope of the changes, like how big they are, and like how it feels like there's not really direction in the balance. I feel like they wanted to do 2 things that were very different from each other in the same patch, and there's really no way to evaluate how good X, Y, or Z change will be. So that's pretty much it for my patch overview. I think, yeah, general feelings is that I just don't like this patch that much. It doesn't solve the problem of making kills more important, because it introduces 2 boundaries that make it harder for aggressive plays to happen. Alright, so let me go down here. Boondocks1, thank you for subscribing, man. Sorry, I didn't say your name while you're subbing me up. The main reason is I went to go through the whole patch before I said anything else. And of course I didn't want to read chat either, because I just wanted to go through the... Yeah, like, if the goal of this patch was to increase tank junglers to the game, it might have done that, sure, but I feel like it's made big impacts on every lane with other stuff that they've done. The XP range change was to discourage lane swaps even further, thus increasing more 1v1 action. I think they've already discouraged lane swaps quite a bit with the dragon buff. I feel like the dragon buff was actually maybe overkill, and that them trying to encourage more 1v1 action doesn't even do that, because what happens is, like, it discourages like dives. It discourages like controlling the wave to like build up a wave and diving it, because the dives are really, really hard now, and you can't push your lead as hard as you could because there's an XP buffer, range buffer now, especially mid lane. Like, you can't zone mid lane. That's it. Like, I just feel like it took away from the game, and I do not enjoy that. Like, I don't mind them adding jungle timers or whatever, because I feel like it didn't take away from the game. It just made it so like stuff that was already necessary is now given to everyone. It's not a big deal. But in this facet, I feel like it's a big change, and they just stated that they didn't want to make big changes before Worlds, and that's like like not being able to dive, or like having to coordinate your dives extremely well to even dive like 3v2 or 4v2 is like ridiculous. I feel like dives in this game are already really hard early. The turret change just decreases aggression. That's it. I really don't like that. So what happens is it's just like, well, like I want there to be aggressive. I feel like the game should be catered around aggression because it's better to see kills as a spectator. It's better to kill as a spectator. I don't mind anti-snowballing being in the game as long as there's adequate snowballing things in the game as well. And I just think there's just like there's too much on the anti-snowballing right now, and it limits aggressive play. Like you want to be able to dive turrets but have like a drawback to it, and now the drawback is like really big. Especially the worst thing is that they didn't tell us how fast the turrets got buffed in terms of targeting. Like what kind of, for even as a pro player, like am I gonna have to go to Riot and ask him the numbers for that? Like, is it a 10% increase? Do they target 50% faster? Like, what am I what am I doing? Like, that's the thing. It's just like I'm really frustrated that I just don't know.